Hello, everybody. I hope you are all doing very well. Wish I could be there in person, but unfortunately, you're going to have to listen to me for the next 7 minutes as I discuss my writing topic of choice for this research project. Just so you know, the following slides are photos from the trip that I think make up the regional food identity of Quebec. So, to no surprise, the conception of my research idea took place around the dinner table, specifically while dining at Tokay. After we finished our mind-blowing meal and then met with the man behind the myth and legend Normand Leprise, we patiently waited to meet with one last guest. The culmination of meeting Normand and discussing his journey and commitment to Quebec left me excited with thousands of ideas. This was only to be heightened when Leslie Chesterman, a food writer primarily focused in Montreal but with coverage spanning the entire province of Quebec, greeted us for lunch. Leslie is connected with every prominent and up-and-coming chef in the region. She knows the trends, skills, and overall character of the chefs of the region. While discussing the spirit of Quebec, she mentioned that chefs lack confidence in their provenance, and due to the past French influence and French domination of the region, European pressure has overshadowed the development of regional character. However, this is all changing. Chefs are recreating their cuisine with small influences of French culinary principles and a large focus and foundation on the representation of Quebec. In an article written in July of 2013 by Leslie Chesterman, titled Il se souvient, Leslie specifically discusses the influence of Normand Leprise and various other chefs on the region of Quebec. She states, looking back, the development of a new Quebec gastronomy occurred at a turning point in this Canadian province's history. This transition from French-centric cuisine to Quebecois-centric cuisine came at a time when the province itself was forging its identity, or as it was known, a distinct society. While we visited Quebec, we met with chefs, producers, locals, and scholars and discussed the various facets of Quebecois culture. Walking away from the trip, I was inspired and intrigued by the community that has formed in the region. They all have seemed to have great pride in their products, land, and what they called to be home. Ultimately, I feel that Quebec is currently in the process of developing regional identity. Normand Leprise is quoted in Chesterman's article as saying, "We've only just started to reach our potential in Quebec." He goes on to say that it's important that we work hard and not look somewhere else. We must create our own signature and evolve. It's not because we're on any list that we've made it. There are lots of good chefs who make up our city's food scene. There's a fraternity between chefs here, and it's natural, sincere, and generous of spirit. All together, we make one colorful family. Chesterman goes on by saying that Leprise also was the first chef in Quebec to be entirely committed to the idea of producing a local cuisine instead of reproducing a foreign one. And yet there was no plan to his actions, no big vision, no parting of the clouds for inspiration from above. As Leprise puts it, I did not know we were creating the Quebec cuisine. I was motivated, happy, and just having fun doing what seemed logical to me at the time. The effort to develop regional identity through quality products, commitment to Quebecois origins, and passion for the land sparked my interest in why people need regional identity. Why is this so important? Quebec is certainly not the only region to seek identity, so how can we look to other parts of the world and learn how to define a region through food? I also thought it might be interesting to come up with a how-to guide for developing regional food identity. By identifying the aspects of establishing this food identity, we can then look at Quebec and see what Quebec is already doing and what needs more development. Ultimately, what is the consumer perception of Quebec in the rest of Canada, the US, and Europe? In the popular journal article titled The Anthropology of Food and Eating by Sydney Mintz and Christine Dubois, eating and cultural identity is intertwined, stating that, like all culturally defined material substances used in the creation and maintenance of social relationships, food serves both to solidify group membership and to set groups apart. Mintz and Dubois continued to solidify this idea by articulating that ethnicity is born of acknowledged difference and works through contrast. Hence, an ethnic cuisine is associated with a geographically and/or historically defined eating community. My goal is to answer the following questions in my research. Why is regional identity important? What role does regional identity serve in the development of culture? And what role does food play in regional identity? I would like to use the article titled Defining Gastronomic Identity, the Impact of Environment and Culture on Prevailing Components, Texture, and Flavors in Wine and Food by Robert Harrington as a framework outlining the components of gastronomic regional identity. Harrington states, a region's gastronomic identity is determined by the environment, which encompasses geography and climate, and culture, which includes history and ethnic influences. After the beginning stages of research, I have discovered three major aspects to the development and promotion of food identity. First, the production of food within the region, a commitment from the people of Quebec to use and develop Quebecois products such as chefs like Normand Laprise. I would like to compare this community to the regional community that Alice Waters has helped to develop in California. Secondly, differentiation from other regions helped to establish a unique identity. What does Quebec do well? People mention that in Asian markets, they look to Quebec for the production of ice wine, which leads us to the bigger question: what is different about food in Quebec? I will use the following article titled "Language, Identity, and Scriptural Landscape in Quebec and Catalonia" by Daniel Gade as a comparative case study between Catalonia and Quebec, as they both represent small regions in a larger country. Lastly, I want to look at the marketing of the region to the rest of the world by comparing the Made in Vermont campaign with the Made in Quebec campaign. What is the perception and promotion of each of these regions? I will use the following article titled "Promoting a Region for International Investment and Integrated Marketing Program" that was published in the Journal of Public Policy and Marketing as a way to study the region from a business perspective. I would like to break down each of these aspects of food identity to do a case study to compare the efforts of Quebec with other regions of the world with a strong regional identity. Because Quebec is still in process of solidifying regional identity, perhaps through research it will become more apparent where there needs to be more focus. Thank you for your time, and I would love any feedback that you might have to offer, and good luck with all your papers.